What's going on, my people? It's your boy AJ Rage. It's Into the Ring Live. Okay, so real quick, we're gonna talk about all of these wannabe boxing critics. Seems like everybody today is a critic, is an expert when it comes to boxing today. And the sad reality is this, guys. Listen, we're not talking video games. We're not talking, something that you just kind of like stumbled onto. Boxing is an art form in itself. Um, it takes time to really understand. You have to really study the sport. And unfortunately, people are treating this like it's, one of those, home base, baseball, fantasy leagues and stuff. And that's not what it is, guys. Every day I see another guy coming out with the show, basically, preaching to the world, what their opinion is of fighters today, and then promoting the wrong fighters. I don't know how many people I've seen right now that are trying to defend the actions and the lack that of actions of Shakur Stevens in his recent bout against Edwin De Los Santos. Let's be honest, at the end of the day, that's not boxing. That's track, that's running. My daughter can tell you that. She was a runner in her life. The bottom line is this, is that you have to learn the sport, people. And how do you learn the sport? You study the sport. You don't necessarily have to be a boxer or a fighter like myself or my brothers, but there's ways of learning the sport. Not everybody who's a coach in football today actually played the sport. Maybe in some situation they had some type of a connection to the sport. I don't give a shit if you were a goddamn equipment manager or the towel boy, whatever, or the water boy, whatever. They had a connection to the sport. But the problem is you got a lot of guys out there and stuff like this because they followed these idiots like Jake Paul and other ones that they think they understand the sport now, because supposedly Jake Paul and Logan Paul and this circus that's been created by people, and unfortunately by people, former professionals like Floyd Mayweather, it's plagued the sport of boxing and stuff. But I'm going to say it again, all of these fights that are happening with people like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and all these other ones, with the exception of maybe Jake Paul's last fight, against Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is barely what you can call a professional fighter, to be honest with you. In the world of boxing and stuff, and it is a close-knit group. He's barely a fighter. His own brother or whoever that is will say it best. But when you're fighting a fighter who's not a fighter, it's called an exhibition. But a lot of this bullshit started with people like Muhammad Ali, who's looked upon as one of the greatest fighters. I tend to differ when it comes to that situation. I think he was great in his own right. But back in all these days and stuff, when his boxing days were coming to an end, he did exhibitions against pro wrestlers and other things. And this kind of set up this thing that they're doing today. When you have fighters out there, these YouTube guys, and they're treating like fighters, I'm going to tell you what ultimately is going to happen, guys, okay? Because unlike MMA, okay, both sports have their level of danger. And if you're not properly prepared, eventually somebody's going to get killed. This happened back in the days of Art Dorr, and a lot of you won't understand this. It's like this, but there used to be a thing back in the days called tough man competitions. And tough man competitions were when they were pulling guys basically off the street, putting boxing gloves on them, and then just beat the shit out of each other for a grand prize. That's what this has turned into. When I hear about guys who've had like a week or 2 weeks of boxing preparation, they don't even understand. It takes years and years just to develop that hard skin to be able to absorb these punches, to know how to avoid a punch. One wrong punch can send you to your grave. End of story. Great fighters, who have done this their entire lives, are sometimes the tragic end of what happens when a fight doesn't go right. So I'm going to say it again, to a lot of these guys out there, preaching, what you think about boxing stuff. Be very, very careful, because you're leading people down the wrong road. I tell people all the time, anybody that wants to learn anything really about boxing, okay, take the time to learn from a boxer. Don't learn from one of these young kids like this Max and you got Ego, you got all these other people and stuff out there that are trying to tell you what they think they know about boxing. They've never laced a boxing glove up in their entire life. They've never got punched in the face, probably not in high school or school, elementary school, or anything like this. They don't know what true violence is. So they're leading you down the wrong path. So when you hear a guy talking about, Shakur Stevens is going to be great in his own right, how do you know? What part of your background made you an expert to where you can look at what it's like what happens on DAZN. When I hear guys like Chris Mannix, it drives me crazy. Here you got commentators like Chris Mannix and Sergio Mora. Now, Sergio Mora was a somewhat former champion, his claim to fame was, winning that Contender Series, the Latin Snake. But let's be honest, Sergio was another guy that was barely a fighter, okay? Barely a fighter. His claim to fame was his victory over, I think it was Vernon Forrest, who was already long in the tooth at the time. Here's what it comes out. Chris Mannix has never boxed a day in his life. You'll never see the guy even inside of a gym. And these guys, that talk a game like Joe Rogan about MMA, at least he spent time in a gym. This guy, you'll never catch him inside of a gym. You'll see him at the Starbucks across the street from the gym. But he's an expert when it comes to boxing. He's an expert when he can talk shit about certain fighters and their technique and where they are at this level in their career, because he knows so much. He's been through so much. And those are the people that you're listening to. You're not listening to guys like me. You're not listening to the real fighters out there. Guys like Paulo Malignaggi and others. There are some good people. Don't listen to Tim Bradley. He's just another one who's a problem. He's like Andre Ward. I hate to say it, even Chris Algieri sometimes. These guys are going to lead you down the wrong path. They're going to tell you what Top Rank or others want to tell you. It's no different than how our government works today. They're only going to give you a little piece, but you got to figure it out for yourselves. And the other big mistake right now that's happening right now with a lot of you people, young people out there and stuff like this that are trying to kickstart, some type of a boxing show for, to get some type of notoriety and stuff, is this: stay the fuck out of the gyms. The gyms are meant for boxers. I don't care if you're a guy preparing for a fight. I don't care if you're a guy just trying to stay in shape, looking for your next fight. I don't care if you're a guy making your comeback. I don't care if you're a guy, coming off your first loss. I don't care if you're a guy who's just starting out. The bottom line, this place is for boxers and trainers alike. That's it. You hang around the guys standing out there just hoping that you're going to get a glimpse of somebody so you can put the mic in front of their face. Okay? At the gyms that my brother's associated with like this, that shit never happens. The first thing we do is we kick you out. I know the sport of boxing, but I know what lane I need to stay in. And you guys are crossing. You're making it harder and harder for the real journalists to really ask the questions that need to be asked. When you guys are in there with your microphones and stuff, asking the most ridiculous questions in the world, like, who do you think will win, between this and what do you think of this? You don't even know. How could you ask a question that you don't even know the backstory about? So stay the fuck out of the gyms. I'm gonna tell you right now, stay out. Because me myself personally, I see guys like you, I kick you guys out all the time. You have no reason to be there and stuff. And I'm going to say it again. Study the sport before you talk. You sound like idiots. Okay? There's no, boxing 101 book for dummies. Study the sport. Watch the sport. Listen to some of the old commentators that used to talk the sport. And I'm not talking about guys like Al Bernstein, these sellouts. The real guys. You want to do yourself a favor? Watch Pro Box TV. Listen to Paulo Malignaggi. He'll tell you a lot about boxing. The guy knows a lot about boxing. Those are the guys you want to listen to. Or myself, of course, my brother, But I'm gonna say it again. Stay the fuck out of the gyms. Learn something about the sport before you actually start a channel. Because like I said, I was just recently in Las Vegas with my brother and stuff. We were going to go to the weigh-ins for the Shakur Stevens, Edwin De Los Santos fight over at T-Mobile Arena. And most people there think they're journalists. They're not journalists. They don't know nothing about boxing. And it's insulting. And it makes it hard for the real guys out there who are trying to get some real stories, get the information to the fans that they need to know when you're out there asking these ridiculous questions. And then you guys feed the ego of the wrong fighters, guys like Shakur Stevens and others. Let's be honest. Shakur Stevens pretty much burned his own bridge in Vegas. Vegas has very, they don't forget. And they got burned. They were giving away tickets to go to this T-Mobile Arena. Not all the blame's on Shakur. Edwin De Los Santos could have brought a little bit more to his game. But that was the most lackluster fight I've seen in years. And I've been a lifelong, not just a fighter myself, but a lifelong fan. And that was one of the, if not the worst fight I've seen in a long time. And people like Andre Ward and Tim Bradley could be like, oh, it was a technical chess match. No, it wasn't. It was one guy that was afraid of one guy and another guy who didn't know basically how one of the first fundamental things you learn as a boxer, how to cut off a ring after all these years. So I don't want to hear it. It's ball effing bullshit. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But like I'll say it again, stay out of the gyms, learn something about the sport, and that and you'll do yourself a better service. Because as of right now, it's becoming comical. And until guys like Floyd Mayweather and others get out of the way and let boxing become boxing again, and that includes all these YouTubers, we're going to be plagued with this disease, of these exhibition fights. And that's what they are. I'm going to say it again. It's an exhibition fight. Well, this is a short one. Your boy AJ Rage for Into the Ring Live. For those who bleed boxing.